Welcome to the HFY Codex Tale. If you like our videos, keep supporting and subscribe to our channel. The human prisoner. The alien guards stood still. Their weapons were raised, and their eyes locked on one person, a human male. He stood calmly in the middle of the docking bay. No armor, no weapons, just simple earth clothes and a quiet smile. He entered the restricted zone without a pass, one guard growled. No ID chip, no translator implant, just a body, the other added. Commander Relecta stepped forward. She was tall, with silver skin, sharp black eyes, and a long dark cloak that showed her high rank. She didn't like humans. She didn't trust them. And she especially didn't like surprises. But this human, he didn't look scared. He looked amused. "State your name," Relecta ordered. The human tilted his head. "Darin, just Darin." "And what are you doing here, Darin?" "Looking for someone to talk to," he said, "but your guards weren't very friendly." One of the guards growled again, but Relecta held up a hand. "Scan him," she said, "full body." A mechanical scanner flew from the ceiling, hovered around Darin and beeped softly. "No weapons detected," the system said. "No tech implants, body temperature normal, heart rate calm." Relecta narrowed her eyes. "No weapons, not even a blade." "Nope," Darin said, "unless you count my charming smile." The guards didn't laugh. Relecta didn't either. She didn't like jokes. "Strip him," she said coldly. "We scan by hand." "Excuse me," Darin blinked. "That's a bit forward, Commander." "You entered our space. You will follow our rules." Moments later, inside the scan room, Darin stood behind a glass divider with only a basic uniform on. Relecta stepped in alone, holding a handheld scanner. Her eyes stayed locked on his chest. Then his arms. Then lower. She froze. The scanner beeped fast and sharp. "Hidden object detected," it said. "Material unknown, location lower torso." Relecta's heart skipped. "Explain this," she said sharply, pointing to the screen. Darin looked down at himself. Then back up at her. "Oh, that? Yes, what weapon are you hiding in your body?" He tried not to smile. "Commander, that's not a weapon. That's just me." Relecta stared at him, confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean," he said carefully, "that's a body part. All humans have it. Well, male ones." She stepped back. Her scanner buzzed again, confused. "It doesn't match any weapon model, and it's organic." "Exactly," Darin said. "A very personal feature." Relecta's face turned a shade darker. Her jaw tightened. "You're telling me your species walks around with this thing?" "Yes. Visible in public." "Not visible," he laughed. "We wear clothes." "But why is it shaped like that?" Darin raised an eyebrow. "Do you really want the biology lesson?" She turned away, flustered. This was not how her morning was supposed to go. She was supposed to interrogate a threat, not blush over human anatomy. "Put your clothes back on," she ordered. "You're the boss," Darin said. Outside the scan room, the guards looked up as Relecta exited, walking faster than usual, her face unreadable. "He was clean," she muttered. "For now, place him in a holding cell." "Commander," one guard said, leaning close, "was that really part of his body?" She didn't answer. She just kept walking. Faster. In his holding cell, Darin leaned back against the wall and chuckled to himself. "First time I've been scanned by a 6-foot-tall alien with laser eyes," he said. He looked at the camera in the corner and smiled. "But I think she liked me." Relecta stood in her quarters later that night, still holding the scanner. She replayed the scan data. The strange signal, the organic readings, the confidence in his voice. She shook her head. Humans are strange. But deep inside her, for the first time in years, she didn't feel bored. She felt curious. The misunderstood weapon. Commander Relecta couldn't sleep. Not because of battle plans, not because of political pressure. Because of one human scan. She paced in her quarters, holding her tablet. The screen displayed Darin's scan results. Organic dense, heat reactive, no match found. She replayed the footage again. And again. The strange shape, the calm smile on his face. He was hiding nothing, but acting like he was hiding everything. The next morning, she called for a private briefing. Only 3 senior officers joined her. All wore straight faces, but tension hung in the room. The human male, Relecta said, has an unidentified biological structure in his lower torso. There was silence. Then one officer coughed awkwardly. Commander, are you sure it's not just human? Relecta narrowed her eyes. You've seen something like it. Only in old Terran biology files. Some species reproduce differently. She frowned. Reproduce? Yes, Commander, it might be part of their mating system. Relecta stared at the tablet. She didn't speak for a long time. Then she said, I need to question him again, alone. In the detention chamber, Darren was doing push-ups. When the door opened, he looked up. Commander, he said, smiling, miss me. She ignored the joke. Stand. He stood. Face forward. He did. I'm going to ask questions. You will answer seriously. Always. She pulled up her scanner again, but this time didn't activate it. She just looked at him. Is it dangerous? She asked softly. He tilted his head. Only if you break hearts. She didn't blink. Why is it shaped like that? Why is your head shaped like that? She raised an eyebrow. That was a joke. I know, he smiled. She paused. Explain its function. Do you want the scientific answer or the romantic one? Relecta hesitated. Then said, both. Darren sat down on the edge of the cell bench. She didn't stop him. He leaned forward, speaking calmly. In human biology, it's part of connection, intimacy, creation, but also comfort. Comfort, she repeated. Yeah, holding someone, being close, feeling safe. That's part of our design. You mean it's not just for mating? Not always, sometimes it's just for love. That word hit her like a cold shock. Love. Aliens didn't use that word. At least not her kind. They spoke of loyalty, duty, reproduction. But not love. She changed the subject fast. Do all human males look like that? Roughly, yes. How do you control it? Training self-awareness, pants. She blinked. Pants. Clothing. Right. She looked away, trying to hide the heat rising in her cheeks. Do human females react to it? Sometimes, he said, if they're curious. Relecta stood up fast. I've heard enough. You sure, he said, I could draw diagrams. No. She turned toward the door. Wait, he said suddenly. She stopped. I know what you're thinking, Darren said. You think this is a joke, that I'm playing with your head. You are, she said. I'm not, he replied. I'm just being me, and I think you're not used to people who don't treat you like a machine. That made her pause. Because it was true. No one questioned her. No one joked with her. No one looked at her like she was just a person. Until now. She left the cell without another word. Outside, the guards looked at her. Is the human still dangerous, Commander? She stared ahead. I don't know, she whispered. But I'm starting to think he's the most dangerous thing we've ever let inside this station. That night, Relecta sat in her room. She didn't open the scan file. Instead, she searched human bonding customs and clicked play. She had to study him alone. The room was silent. Relecta stood alone in the private examination chamber. The lights were dimmed, the scan table was clean, and the air felt too warm for some reason. She had dismissed the med officers, cleared the logs, locked the door. This wasn't a normal procedure. This was personal research. Or at least, that's what she told herself. The door hissed open behind her. Darren stepped in, wearing his plain uniform and a small smirk. Wow, you brought me to the fancy room this time. Remove your outer layer, Relecta said quickly, not meeting his eyes. You mean my shirt? All non-essential fabric. I need a full-body scan. He raised an eyebrow but obeyed. You know, you could have just said you missed me. She didn't respond. When he stood before her, she lifted the scanner. It buzzed softly, glowing green as it passed over his chest, shoulders, arms. She tried to stay focused, but something was off. Her hands were steady. Her heart was not. You're tense, Darren said softly. I'm working. No, you're curious. Her fingers froze mid-scan. Why are you doing this? He asked. To confirm what I saw before wasn't a trick. You already know it was. Then maybe, she said slowly, I want to understand why I keep thinking about it. The scanner beeped again as it reached his lower torso. Same signal, same readings. No weapons. Just biology. Relecta looked at the screen, then at him. Does it react to emotion? Sometimes. And right now. He gave a sly grin. I'd say yes. She took a sharp breath and stepped back. This is ridiculous. Is it? I'm a commander, you're a prisoner. And yet you keep locking yourself in rooms with me. For a moment, the silence grew thick between them. Darren slowly reached for his shirt. Want me to put it back on? She didn't answer. She just stared. Not with fear. Not with judgment. With interest. Then she spoke, her voice lower. Do you enjoy making me uncomfortable? No, he said. I enjoy watching you realize you're more than just a title. I have responsibilities. So do I like not offending the woman who's clearly fighting her own protocol? She frowned. I'm not fighting anything. Then why did you clear the room? Relecta stepped closer. She was only inches from him now. Her scanner hovered between them, forgotten. Humans, she said, are dangerous. You use humor like a weapon. You use your eyes like traps. And what are you using right now? He whispered. Her hand touched his chest, light, curious. His skin was warm. She had touched hundreds of bodies in training, but never one that made her hand feel nervous. She dropped it quickly. Scan complete, she said, voice shaky. You sure? Yes. Even the confusing parts. Especially those. Darren stepped back and pulled on his shirt. So what's the report going to say, Commander? That the subject is unarmed? She paused, but extremely dangerous to alien biology. He grinned. Finally, someone sees me. As he walked out of the room, Relecta stood frozen. Her scanner lay silent in her hand. She looked down at her palm. She could still feel the warmth of his skin. And for the first time in her life, she wished he'd never leave that room. Far above the ship, a transmission was being sent. A secret one, from a hidden watcher. Commander Relecta is compromised. The human may be affecting her mind or her heart. Prepare the override. The day she defended him. The alarm rang through the station. Not the kind that warned of attack. This was internal. Security breach, detainment override. Commander Relecta rushed through the corridor, her long coat whipping behind her. She had just finished logging the last scan report on Darren when she got the alert. Prisoner H-37 being moved for emergency processing. That was Darren, and she hadn't approved it. When she reached the detention wing, 2 guards were already dragging him down the hallway. His hands were restrained. His face was calm, but his eyes searched, looking for her. What are you doing? She demanded. The lead officer, a brute named Varex, turned without respect. Order from high command. Immediate removal. The human is affecting your decision-making, Commander. I never authorized this. Because you're compromised. Relecta stepped forward between them. She stared straight at Varex. Unbind him now. That's not your call anymore. You're wrong, she said, voice sharp. While I wear this crest, everything that happens on this station is my call. Varex lifted his wrist device. Override code Alpha 1. But before he could finish, Relecta drew her pulse blade and slammed it into the wall beside him, just inches from his arm. The corridor fell dead silent. Even Darren stopped breathing. "Try that code again," she whispered, "and I'll remove the arm it's connected to." Varix backed down, but he wasn't the only one watching. More officers stepped forward. One asked carefully, "Commander, are you protecting him?" She turned slowly to face them all. "Yes." "Why?" "Because you fear what you don't understand, and I've seen enough to know that fear leads to mistakes." She walked to Darren and removed the restraints herself. His hands were cold. She held them for a moment longer than she needed to. Then she turned back to her crew. "Anyone who still follows my orders, stand down." After a long pause, they did. One by one, the guards lowered their weapons. Later, in her private chamber, Relecta stood staring at her own reflection. Her hand trembled slightly. She had just broken protocol, possibly committed treason. All for a human. Darren stood at the far end of the room. "You didn't have to do that," he said softly. "Yes, I did. They'll come for you now. Let them." "Why?" She turned. Her eyes held something she hadn't shown before, truth. "Because I made my choice." He stepped closer. "Are you sure it wasn't just curiosity?" "It started that way." She took another step. "But now I wake up thinking about your voice." Another step. "I remember your warmth." Another. "And I dream in earth words I don't fully understand." Now they were standing close, face to face. "Then maybe," Darren whispered, "you're learning something stronger than command." "Maybe," she replied, voice trembling. "I'm learning to feel." Far beyond the station, deep in the command fleet, a general watched Relecta's broadcast. "She's bonded to the human." "What now?" another asked. The general turned slowly. "Now we test how far she's willing to go before she breaks." What she saw in his eyes. The stars outside the window blinked quietly. Relecta stood alone in her quarters, watching them. She used to love the silence of space. Now it felt too loud inside her mind. "You're quiet again," Darren said gently. He was seated across from her, drinking the strange, warm tea she gave him. They had shared meals for 3 days now. Not as prisoner and commander, but as something else. Something closer. She turned to him. "I don't know who I am anymore." He tilted his head. "You're Relecta, a respected commander," feared followed. "Yes," she said, "but now when I look in the mirror I don't see a warrior, I see someone soft, unsteady." "You're not soft," he said, "you're waking up." She sat down beside him. Her fingers brushed the edge of her uniform. "I was trained from birth to lead fleets. I was never hugged, never held. My first memory is a cold training room and an order to silence my tears." Darren didn't speak. He let the silence stretch. "When I saw you," she continued, "I thought you were a threat." "I still might be," he joked softly. She smiled just a little. "But when I scanned you and saw that strange, unexplainable shape, something changed." "Most people just run away," he grinned. "I didn't want to run," she whispered. "I wanted to understand." She looked into his eyes. And that's when it happened. She saw something in them no one had ever shown her. Kindness without weakness. Interest without agenda. And something close to love. "What are you seeing right now?" she asked him. Darren leaned forward. "I see a woman who commands ships, but doesn't know what it feels like to be touched gently. I see someone who memorized war, but forgot what laughter sounds like. And I see someone who deserves more than fear and orders." Her eyes burned slightly, she blinked fast. No tears fell. Not yet. But something inside her broke free. "I've never been seen like this," she whispered. "Now you have," he said. Suddenly, an alert flashed across her room. Incoming message. Council override Darren to be relocated by force. She stood quickly. "They're going to take you again." "You don't have to stop them," Darren said. You've already risked everything. She looked at him. You are everything I want to risk. She grabbed her pulse blade and a hidden cloak. Follow me, she said. Where are we going? To the edge of this station, and if we survive, beyond. As they left her quarters, she paused, looked back once, then looked at Darin. Do you think I'm broken? She asked. No, he said softly. I think you were built wrong by people who didn't know what beauty was. She closed her eyes. For the first time, she believed him. Far above, in the command ship, the general stared at the escape alert. She's made her choice. Should we activate pursuit? The general's eyes narrowed. No, let's see where she goes. Let the universe see what happens when a commander follows her heart. She couldn't stop thinking about him. The stars stretched like rivers of light. The stolen scout ship moved silently through deep space. Commander Relecta sat in the pilot's chair, eyes forward, hands still. But her mind was not quiet. Darin was asleep in the back cabin, wrapped in a thermal blanket, breathing softly. She had rerouted heat to his room, turned off the auto tracker, deleted her command ID from the ship's logs. She had erased everything that tied her to the Empire. But no matter what she deleted, she couldn't delete the way he made her feel. She opened her private screen, typed, symptoms of human emotional attachment. Results appeared. Increased heartbeat, difficulty focusing, protective behavior, dream recall, physical closeness. She checked each box silently. This is not logical, she whispered. But it felt real. More real than anything her empire ever gave her. Hours passed. The stars grew dimmer as they entered a quiet system. A red sun, a few dead moons. Safe for now. Relecta powered down the drive and walked to the cabin. Darin was sitting up, sleepy-eyed. Still running? He asked. Still breathing, she replied. He smiled. You're doing more than breathing. You're changing. Am I? She asked quietly. You haven't called me a threat in 2 days. You haven't been one. I could be, he said playfully. She stepped closer. Then prove it. He blinked, then stood slowly, stepping in front of her. Are you sure? No, she whispered, but I don't want to keep guessing. He raised his hand and touched her cheek gently. She didn't pull away. Her eyes fluttered shut. Her breath caught in her throat. For a commander raised in war, who had touched blades but never skin. This moment was louder than any battle. You're warm, she said. You're soft, he answered. No one ever called me that before. Then they never really saw you. She opened her eyes and looked at him. Not as a leader. Not as a weapon. Just as a woman. And for the first time, she let herself feel it. Not curiosity. Not duty. Longing. Suddenly the ship shook. An alert flashed. Tracking signal detected. Incoming vessel, Imperial signature. Relecta's eyes widened. They found us. Can we fight? Darin asked. She shook her head. Not in this ship. Then what do we do? She looked at him. Her voice was calm. We surrender. What? Not to them, she said. She reached out and grabbed his hand. To this. Far away, on the approaching warship, the general stared at their location. Prepare a message, he said. Tell Relecta if she returns the human, we'll forgive her betrayal. The officer hesitated. And if she refuses? The general smiled coldly. Then we remind her what the Empire does to those who fall in love with the enemy. Inside the scout ship, Relecta turned off the comms. They'll demand I hand you over. You don't have to protect me, Darin said. You've already given up so much. She leaned in. Then let me give one more thing. What? My heart. Her final report, the human changed me. The Empire's warship hovered like a shadow above the quiet red moon. Its weapons were armed, its soldiers stood ready. And deep inside the command bridge, every screen showed one ship. Small, outmatched, and piloted by Commander Relecta. Inside the scout vessel, she stood in front of the transmission screen. Darren sat behind her, silent. He had begged her not to do this. But she wasn't doing it for herself. She was doing it for him. And for everything she used to believe. The screen blinked. The face of General Velker appeared. His voice was ice. Commander Relecta, return the human and stand down. Do this and you may keep your title. Refuse and you will be erased. She didn't blink. She didn't bow. She spoke. I will not return him. Then you betray your people. No, I'm finally protecting them from their own blindness. The general leaned forward. You fell in love with a human. For that, your command is over. She paused, then said softly, then let this be my final report. She uploaded her final voice entry to the Empire's official log, one that would be heard not just by officers, but across every listening station in the galaxy. Her voice echoed with calm strength. This is Commander Relecta, serial ID R177. I was born to serve the Empire. I was trained to obey. I was told that emotion was weakness, that humans were dangerous. Then I met one, and everything changed. He taught me that kindness is not surrender, that laughter is not disorder, that love is not a virus, it is a cure. I scanned his body for weapons. I found none. But what I did find was a reason to choose something more than duty. A reason to feel. And if that makes me broken, then I was never whole to begin with. Silence. The general stared at the screen, stunned. Behind him, officers lowered their eyes. Some nodded quietly. She had spoken a truth they never dared admit. Back in the scout ship, Darren walked up to her. That was brave. It was honest, she whispered. What now? Now we run together. They jumped to lightspeed, leaving the warship behind. No one fired. No one chased. Because the message she left behind was louder than any weapon. Years later, across border worlds and hidden colonies, her words were still played in secret. The speech of the alien commander who chose a human, who broke all rules to protect what was real. Some called her a traitor. Others called her a fool. But many, many more called her a hero. And those who knew the full story called her something else. The woman who was never programmed to love, but chose it anyway. The end.